What happens when Hollywood's beloved funny man finally hits his breaking point? Live on national television. Adam Sandler, long known for his easygoing charm and comedic genius, stunned audiences around the world when he was forcibly removed from Jimmy Kimmel Live. What began as a typical celebrity interview quickly devolved into a shocking confrontation that left viewers speechless. This now viral incident exposes a side of late-night television the networks never wanted you to see. Before we dive into the jaw-dropping details of this explosive moment, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest celebrity clashes and the backstage truths mainstream media tries to bury. Years of tension, finally unleashed behind the scenes. Tensions between Adam Sandler and Jimmy Kimmel had reportedly been building for years. Insiders say their professional relationship had quietly soured, with Kimmel allegedly taking veiled shots at Sandler's recent projects during previous interviews. Still, no one expected things to implode the way they did. The evening began normally. The crowd cheered as Sandler walked on stage in his signature casual attire, shuffling with his familiar, humble gait. Kimmel, dressed to the nines in a sleek suit, greeted him with warmth, or so it seemed. But keen-eyed viewers noticed something off in Kimmel's smile. The tension was subtle, until it wasn't. "Great to have you back, Adam," Kimmel said with his usual polish. "It's been a while." Sandler, relaxed but alert, smiled politely. "Yeah, good to be here, Jimmy. Thanks for having me." For the first few minutes, all was normal. Family anecdotes, upcoming film plugs, and some light banter. The audience laughed. The tone was familiar. Until Kimmel flipped the script. The interview turns. "So, Adam," Kimmel leaned in, a glint in his eye that seasoned viewers recognized. "Your last few films have been, let's say, critically divisive. Some critics say you're just cashing checks these days. Any thoughts?" The room shifted. Sandler's smile froze for half a second. A flicker of tension crossed his face before he regained composure. The laughter faltered. The atmosphere chilled. "Well, Jimmy," Sandler said, the smile not quite reaching his eyes, "I've always made movies for the fans, not the critics. As long as people are enjoying them, and I'm having fun, that's what matters to me." Kimmel nodded exaggeratedly. Sure, but don't you worry about your legacy? I mean, we all loved your early work, but now..." The implication hung heavy in the air. Sandler shifted, the cracks in his easygoing facade beginning to show. "My legacy," he echoed, a sharper tone creeping in. "I think my work speaks for itself. 25 years in the business, still making films people watch." But Kimmel didn't back off. "Come on, though. Compare Uncut Gems to some of your recent Netflix stuff. You don't see a difference?" A flash of real hurt flickered across Sandler's face, then hardened into something else. The breaking point. "You know, Jimmy," Sandler said slowly, setting his water down with care. "I've been on your show for years, always laughed, along, even when the jokes were at my expense. But tonight feels different, feels personal." Kimmel let out a dismissive laugh. "Don't be so sensitive, Adam. It's just comedy. That's what we both do, right?" But the audience wasn't laughing. They were witnessing something real, raw, unsanitized, and in that moment, the illusion of light-hearted late-night TV shattered. "There's comedy, and then there's respect," Sandler shot back, his usual laid-back charm giving way to a more assertive, unflinching presence. "And I'm starting to think this isn't really about my movies at all." The tension snapped into full view. Whatever illusion of friendly banter had remained was gone. Behind the cameras, producers gestured frantically. their signals growing desperate. They knew the segment was veering dangerously off course. Kimmel flushed but didn't back down. Well, since you brought it up, maybe it's not just the movies. Maybe it's how you've changed, Adam. There was a time you were the most down-to-earth guy in Hollywood. Now I hear stories. Stories about how difficult you are on set. Special treatment. Diva behavior. The words landed with force. The audience collectively inhaled. A few shifted uncomfortably. This was no longer late-night television. It felt like a private grudge, aired live under hot studio lights. Sandler stared at Kimmel, long and hard. You want to go there? Fine. Let's do this. Those stories you've heard? I'd love to know where they came from. Or maybe, he added, narrowing his gaze, I already know. A heavy silence fell. One of the production assistants made a slashing motion across her throat, signaling cut to commercial. But Kimmel subtly waved it off. He wanted more. I don't need to name sources, Kimmel said coolly, his voice edged with smug certainty. Hollywood's a small town. People talk, especially about how someone treats the crew. The ones who don't have a voice. Something shifted in Sandler's expression. The affable, goofy persona was gone. In its place was a man fighting to maintain his composure in the face of a public character assassination. That's a serious accusation, Jimmy, he said, voice low and dangerous. And it's a lie. I've built my career on respect, from the director down to the guy, handing out water bottles. Ask anyone who's actually worked with me. Not your so-called sources. The audience sat frozen, the tension crackling. This wasn't performance. It was raw, real, and uncomfortable. Kimmel leaned back in his chair, visibly relishing the drama. You can deny it all you want, Adam, but people talk, and what they're saying, it's not flattering. Maybe that's why your last 3 projects bombed, critically and commercially. The jab landed like a punch. A few audience members winced. A murmur rippled through the studio. Still, the host didn't let up. The director signaled again. But Kimmel shook his head. He was in too deep to stop now. Sandler took a deep breath, steadying himself. His next words cut through the studio like a blade. You know what, Jimmy? I came here as a professional to promote a film that hundreds of people worked their asses off on, people whose livelihoods depend on its success. And instead, you're sitting here throwing cheap shots based on gossip. He leaned forward, eyes locked on Kimmel. So let me ask you something. Is this really about me? Or is it about the fact that I passed on that charity event you were organizing last month? The audience gasped. A flicker of surprise, unmistakable, crossed Kimmel's face. Because ever since I turned that down, I've been hearing that you've been trashing me all over town. Kimmel tried to brush it off with a laugh, but it came out forced. That's ridiculous, he scoffed. Not everything is about you, Adam. I didn't say anything about the event, even when you dropped out last minute and left us scrambling. I had a family emergency, Sandler snapped, his voice rising for the first time. Which I explained to your team, in detail. My daughter was in the hospital, Jimmy. He paused, letting that land. Did they not tell you that part? Or did you just choose to ignore it? For the first time, Kimmel faltered. Whether he'd truly been unaware or had deliberately overlooked it was impossible to say. But the mask slipped just for a moment, and in that moment the entire room knew. This wasn't just an awkward interview. This was a reckoning. But Kimmel recovered quickly, his tone turning icy. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? A family emergency no one can verify. The studio gasped. The comment hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. Even the band leader shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances with the musicians. This wasn't just edgy. This was unprecedented. Sandler's face darkened. Whatever restraint he'd been holding onto finally snapped. "Are you seriously implying I made that up? That I'd lie about my daughter being in the hospital? What kind of person do you think I am?" Kimmel didn't flinch. If anything, he doubled down. "I think you've gotten too used to getting your way, Adam. The kind of star who's been insulated by yes men so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to be held accountable." Sandler stared in disbelief. Held accountable? For what? Missing a celebrity softball game so I could be with my family? "Yeah, Jimmy, clearly I'm the villain here." His sarcasm bit deep. For a brief second, it looked like Kimmel might realize he'd crossed a line, but instead the host gave a tight, forced smile and reached for his cue cards. "Let's move on, shall we? Your new film—" "No," Sandler cut in, his voice firm and unwavering. The room stilled. "We're not just moving on. You don't get to drag my name through the mud and then pivot to softball questions like nothing happened." A tense silence gripped the studio. The cameras, normally quick to cut away during awkward moments, stayed locked in, capturing every flicker of hostility. "This is my show, Adam," Kimmel said coldly, dropping all pretense of friendliness. "We move on when I say we move on." "And this is my reputation you're smearing," Sandler shot back. "So maybe we should talk about you for a second, because if Hollywood is such a small town, then I'm sure you've heard what people say about you, too." Kimmel's expression hardened. "I don't think that's a road you want to go down." "Why not?" Sandler challenged. "You had no problem going there with me. What's the matter, Jimmy? Can dish it out but can't take it?" The studio audience was dead silent now. Even the usually rowdy front row sat frozen, riveted. They weren't watching comedy. They were witnessing a raw, unscripted power struggle. Kimmel broke the silence. "We're going to commercial," he said abruptly, turning past Sandler to face the camera. "When we come back, we'll be joined by our next guest." "That's your move?" Sandler interrupted. "Cut to commercial and pretend none of this happened? You accused me, on air, of lying about my child being in the hospital. You think a commercial break erases that?" Kimmel didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the wings. "Security." His voice was calm, chilling in its finality. "I think Mr. Sandler needs some assistance finding his way backstage." Gasps erupted from the audience. 2 security guards stepped out from behind the curtain, walking toward the guest chair. Sandler looked from them to Kimmel, incredulous. "You're seriously throwing me out? For defending myself?" "I'm removing you because you're disrupting the show," Kimmel replied smoothly. "This is a comedy program, not a platform for personal grudges." Sandler rose slowly, deliberately, before the guards could reach him. His voice was calm now, but every word struck like a hammer. "The irony here is stunning. You spend 10 minutes ambushing me with personal attacks, then play victim the second I push back." Then he turned, not to Kimmel, but to the audience, breaking the unspoken late-night rule. "This is what happens when you stop playing along. When you stop laughing at the jokes made at your expense. They call it comedy. Until you fight back." The audience sat frozen, caught in the surreal gravity of the moment. Cameras rolled, capturing a glimpse of something raw, something real, too real for the stage it was on. "I've been in this business a long time," Sandler said, his voice calm but resolute. And I've never been treated with this level of disrespect on a talk show. Not once. He paused, sweeping his gaze across the silent audience. I hope you all remember this moment the next time Jimmy puts on his concerned face and starts preaching about kindness and decency. By now, the security guards were flanking him, uncomfortably close. The audience, visibly torn, between their loyalty to a show they'd waited months to attend and their shock at seeing a beloved actor humiliated, remained in tense, uncertain silence. Just so we're clear, Sandler continued, now staring directly at Kimmel. I'm walking off this stage on my own. Your security doesn't need to touch me, but everyone here, and everyone watching at home, should remember what they saw tonight. They should remember who you really are behind that desk. Kimmel's face had reddened. His knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of his desk, his carefully constructed persona crumbling beneath the harsh studio lights. Cut to commercial, he barked, louder this time, trying to shut it all down. But the cameras didn't cut. The director, sensing the gravity of the moment, or perhaps unable to look away, let the feed roll. The tension was electric. You know the difference between you and me, Jimmy, Sandler said, taking a step toward the exit but pausing for one final shot of truth. I play characters for a living. You pretend to be yourself. With that, he turned and strode toward the wings, the security guards trailing behind him like awkward shadows. The audience, caught between admiration and confusion, offered scattered applause, half-hearted and unsure, before it faded completely. Kimmel tried to regain his footing. Well, he said with a tight smile that didn't touch his eyes. I guess some people just can't take a joke anymore. We'll be right back with our next guest, who hopefully has a better sense of humor. But the damage was done. The silence that followed swallowed the set whole. The camera cut to the crowd, faces etched with discomfort, confusion, and in some cases, quiet judgment. What had played out wasn't a diva moment. It wasn't an actor being difficult. It was a host abusing his platform, and the fallout came swiftly. Backstage, crew members exchanged uneasy glances as Sandler passed. One production assistant stepped forward with his belongings, her concern evident. You okay, Adam? She asked gently. I will be, he replied, steady but clearly still riding the adrenaline of the confrontation, then disappeared through the exit without another word. Meanwhile, back on stage, Kimmel returned, from commercial with forced cheer. The audience clapped, but the energy had evaporated. Whatever illusion of light-hearted entertainment he tried to restore, it fell flat. Welcome back, he said, voice overly bright. Well, that was certainly unexpected. In all my years hosting, I've never seen a guest react so strongly to a little friendly ribbing. The audience wasn't buying it. The camera caught multiple guests exchanging glances, disbelieving, skeptical, unimpressed. Kimmel pushed forward with the show, but the atmosphere had changed. The usual bounce was gone. The crowd responded out of politeness, not enthusiasm. What Kimmel failed to grasp was that audiences today are sharper than they're often given credit for. They know authenticity when they see it, and they can smell a setup or a smear just as quickly. The incident didn't die with the credits. Within hours, clips flooded social media. Hashtags like Adam Sandler was right and Kimmel out of line trended worldwide. Fans and industry figures alike took sides. So what really happened that night? Was it a clash of egos in an unscripted moment, or a calculated provocation meant to manufacture drama and boost ratings that backfired spectacularly? The truth, as is often the case in Hollywood, likely lies somewhere in between. But one thing was certain. Adam Sandler walked away with his dignity intact. He stood his ground, exposed a power imbalance, and reminded viewers that humility and integrity still matter. Kimmel, by contrast, reminded us all that the late-night host is a performer too. Only his role is harder to forgive when the mask slips. So next time you watch a casual celebrity interview, remember, behind the jokes, the monologues, and the desk lies a machine powered by perception, ego, and control. And sometimes the most honest moments in television are the ones that were never meant to happen.